Hey, this is Ryan Tucker, and we want to thank you for listening to the Unchangeable Truth podcast. In this podcast, we get to dive into Pastor Stephen's weekly sermons right here at Highland Park Baptist Church. We would ask you to rate, like, subscribe, and comment. And again, we are honored and thankful that you have chosen to listen to the Unchangeable Truth. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Unchangeable Truth podcast. Today is a very special episode because not only do we have Pastor Stephen in the room, but we got Jay Kyle, Jennifer Kyle, his wife, and Jen Tucker, my wife, in the room to discuss and talk all things Stephen's sermon.
It's like the double Jen, double Jennifer.
This could get really
when we first walked off the airport, off the plane in the airport, you looked at us and said, "We're gonna have to call you Jen."
Yeah,
like you changed her name here.
Yeah, it's too confusing. Double Jennifers.
So, but I grew up calling her Jennifer, so I had to learn to call her Jen.
Well, I didn't mean you had to call her. You didn't. I mean, you call her Jennifer at home.
I mean, I do.
I'm just saying. For me, you're now
like,
known as Jen.
Well, now everybody calls her Jen. Anyway, so
normally we would say we're just two guys sitting here having a conversation.
You were going to bring it up.
And Journey thought it'd be a good idea. Hey, let's have the wives come because Mother's Day.
It was a good Mother's Day service yesterday.
But we didn't. It wasn't a Mother's Day sermon.
You did not. You kind of threw everybody off.
It was
because
faith. We were talking about. It was on faith. It was a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought more along the lines of 22 babies dedicated.
Yeah.
And, how we sacrifice our lives. And
yeah.
So
I mean, it was a good sermon. I think it's worth discussing at some point, but we're going to probably go a little bit different route today, kind of talk about some marriage and some parenting.
I say we just go the way it takes us.
Well,
hey,
we've been discussing that for 45 minutes and we still don't have a plan.
Journey told us that, we've got listeners that are listening to us now in Switzerland and Great Britain and Australia. And Journey, where else did you say we have folks that are listening to us right now?
He took it. I took it.
Journey.
You
unplugged his mic?
Yeah. So we could add our guest.
Wow.
So let's.
Alabama. He said we got some folks in Alabama listening to us. So all over the world.
Yes. Great Britain and Alabama.
Great Britain and
there
Alabama.
We go. That is perfect. So anyway, we are super.
Well, Journey told me people in Alabama need the Lord.
See.
So, I mean,
ladies, I try to stay on track. Okay, you see how it is
impossible.
every week.
Yeah,
but
hey, a special shout out yesterday. I was standing at the Welcome Center after service, and these two really sweet senior adult ladies came up, and one had invited her friend to church, and was introducing me to her. And the woman she introduced me said, "I watch you every week." And I said, "Really?" I said, "You watch our morning services?" She goes, "I do watch those, but no, I watch you Sunday night." And I said, "Oh, you watch the podcast?" And a lot of our podcast listeners don't know that we put the podcast on a regional ABC network that's on Sunday nights. And she said, "I do. I love it." And the other senior adult lady said, "I do too. I watch it." Now, I don't know if she was telling the truth, if she was just trying to fill one up by her friend. But a special shout out to those.
Well, she got my autograph. Did she get yours?
I gave her two Goo Goo bars.
Oh, okay, that's probably better.
And did she really get your autograph?
No.
You autographed her Bible, didn't you?
That's it.
I always find that weird. Do you find that weird? I've had people through the years ask me to autograph their Bible, and you're like, I will, but that's kind of weird.
He had some speed before he came in here. This is every night at my house at 10 o'clock.
This is the format that we do. We just sit around and talk.
We do. We do. And eventually,
but we're glad to have y'all here. We'll let y'all talk.
I'm trying to get there.
Hey, maybe we take seriously, maybe we take 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
2 minutes.
Talk about the sermon. And then I know you've kind of got some questions that you formulated that was approved.
Yes.
By our lovely guest today.
Yes.
Do you ever watch the podcast?
I do.
Okay.
She watches the podcast. You've never watched the podcast.
I don't know where to go from
I've
this.
never listened to it or watched it or anything. This is all brand new.
We are glad that you're here, Jennifer Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not just this one. I don't watch any of them or listen to any of them. So it's not.
So this is a big deal that you're actually in the room.
I feel like it because I hear what he has to say about everything all the time. So I don't need to watch him on TV too.
I don't watch the podcast. I'll listen to it when I'm mowing the yard.
Yeah.
Just to remember what we've said and all that. But I I don't watch the podcast. There are many times though I'm laughing while I'm mowing the yard because we're pretty funny.
We're hilarious.
We're pretty funny.
We are hilarious.
Well, that's what that grandma said yesterday.
That's right.
She said, "You guys are so funny."
She thought one of us was really good looking too.
Well, yeah, and I told her, I'm like, I'm married. Just quit,
true.
quit saying that about me. And then I said Journey, and she goes,
So-
what? Who?
Yeah.
Who are you talking about?
All right, so yesterday.
So that's why we call this
Yesterday.
My boy. Nobody even cares.
Just let him talk.
I'm lost
This is
now.
how.
Here we
this
go.
is our format.
So yesterday, all right, you were.
there are
in-
people that are
oh
turning. There are people that are down here at the beach
my
on vacation that have just turned this TV on. It's 11 o'clock at night, and they're like, "This is Panama City
This
TV.
is gold right here.
This is Panama City TV. Not only Panama City TV, Switzerland TV too. Swiss. Would it be Swiss or Switzerland? Swiss TV. At its
I don't
finest.
think we had to be here.
Come on, Ryan. Let's dive into the
I'm
sermon.
trying, baby. I'm trying. Here we go. All right. So yesterday was Mother's Day. You did not necessarily talk about a quote unquote Mother's Day sermon, but you did talk about a lot of things related to the story of Abraham and Isaac. And
Talk
just-
about a father and his son, which is a perfect Mother's Day
and
sermon.
a father, son, and a test.
A test. That's true.
So I'll if you can, in just a couple minutes, recap that entire 50-minute talk.
It was a 50 minutes.
It wasn't 50 minutes.
Oh, I didn't have 50
Oh, we had
minutes.
baby dedication.
Yeah,
That's right. Here we go.
I'm thinking maybe
So
35.
hit the highlights, and then I want to be able to ask these ladies some questions.
Sure.
So go ahead and hit some of the highlights on the sermon yesterday.
Well, if people will listen to right before this podcast, they'll get the whole sermon, and so they don't even need the highlights. But really, it's the lessons of faith, right?
Right.
And one of the things that we've kind of pressed into in these standalone sermons over the last couple of weeks that we'll press into again this coming week is something that you don't hear a lot about in the modern day church, and that's sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so many times it's this consumer mentality
Yeah.
of what is best for me, what do I like, seeker friendly. I'm all about seeker friendly, but really, if we're going to be seeker friendly, we talk about being a sinner.
Yeah.
What do they say? But in order for the good news to be the good news, they got to be a little bit of bad news.
Yeah.
And we want to skip the bad news. But sacrifice. Here's a guy. I think Abraham would say the greatest gift that he had ever received in his life was a miracle child.
Yeah.
For he and Sarah, Isaac, and it's almost like God saying this: "Hey, Abraham, I'd like to know, what do you love more, the gift or the giver of the gift?"
Yeah.
And I say, Jennifer and I, we're blessed like you guys with good kids, and we take delight in giving
Yeah.
them gifts. We really do. Even our son just got a little part-time job. He's yet to work his first hour, but a little part-time job. And of course, Jennifer and I are like, we're glad that he's got a job, but why are you getting a job?
Yeah.
We take care of you. You're good. We make truck payments, and we'll make sure you got gas money and all that. And I don't know, maybe us being selfish, almost like, don't mess up our life. We have things that we like to do.
I told him as soon as it interferes with anything I want him to do, he's got to quit.
Yeah,
That's
which will
how-
be probably
yeah.
shift number one. But we delight in giving. I can remember as a child growing up, parents saying, we like giving better than receiving, and I'm like, that makes no sense. I'll never be that, and now I'm there.
Yeah, we understand that now.
But the moment if our kids ever responded, I love the gift. Well, no, hey, thank you for the gift. I love you.
Yeah.
And that means all the things in the
Yeah.
world. Hopefully, I think we would say our kids love us not because of what we give them, but because of who we are.
Yeah.
But here's Abraham really. Oh yeah, you love me. You have faith. Let's put it to the test.
Yeah.
How much faith do you have? And if we leave it alone in Genesis 22, it can kind of get lost. But then when we pair it with Hebrews 11, hey, here's how much faith he had. That if he even had to go ahead and
Yeah.
cut Isaac's throat
Yeah.
and kill him, he believed God was going to raise him from the dead.
Yeah.
I know we have two girls and a son. Our girls say all the time, he's the baby. He is most loved of anyone. You like him the most. And Jennifer will say, "That's true, I do." He's the baby, right? And you guys have 2 boys, so we'll put it in the proper context. Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
Hey, you got to give your son. That'd be tough.
Yeah.
But then when we factor in the fact they're not really our sons to begin with,
Right.
they're God's.
Yeah.
That as much as we love our kids, the love we have for them pales in comparison
Yeah.
to God's love. But we are called to be good stewards of every resource He's given us, including our children.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is a perfect segue into some of the questions that you want to talk about raising families and marriages and all those kinds of things. I mean, God calls us to sacrifice, and God calls us to walk by faith in all of those things.
Absolutely. And so one of the questions I do want to ask with that, because I think it's probably appropriate for today's culture, and that's why I really love having them on here to give some insight from maybe a different perspective. But, you know, one of the things that I've talked about with some younger guys is that mothers, some of the ladies are kind of outpacing the dads, outpacing the fathers, outpacing their husbands when it comes to spiritual leadership in the family. And so you even talked yesterday a little bit about, you know, Abraham setting the example for Isaac. And so as spiritual leaders, we should be setting the example. We should be leading the family. However, in today's culture, it seems that moms are outpacing dads. The wives are outpacing the husbands when it comes to spiritual leadership in the home. So I want to be able to maybe hear from you guys. Like, is that a valid thought, or is that something maybe that that you've heard or dealt with? Because I know that each of you deal with ladies in ministry, you deal with families, I know you and I work with young adults, and so I know that you've given counsel to young ladies on different things, but I'd love to hear from you guys your thought on that particular idea.
I know that we had this discussion in Sunday school a couple weeks ago where the men in the room were responding to a lot of what the same kind of situation, and it was actually kind of surprising to me that a lot of them were like, well, I mean, if you're a mom and you stay home, it feels like, well, you're there to raise your children, and so sometimes it falls on the mother to, you know, teach them the Bible, take them to church, teach them, you know, take them to vacation Bible school, and making sure that they're inviting their friends over to tell them about Jesus. And so sometimes I feel like it does fall a little bit on the mom, just because, I mean, let's consider our situation. Like, I stayed at home for 9 years, and when you were off at work, I felt like, well, I mean, at the time it was appropriate for me to support you in your job. And so I felt like I probably shouldered a lot of the responsibility, not because you didn't want to, it was just because I was there at the moment, and that's what I was put in the home to do at the time. That was my calling in that part of my life. As far as like moms outpacing dads when it comes to spiritual leadership, there was a time whenever you were able to step in, though, especially when it came to whenever the kids were older and they were able to communicate better, where that shifted to you, and they started asking you questions, and they started responding to things about Jesus and things about the church, and why does dad always have to go to mission trips, and why isn't he here, and having to explain to them, well, he's going to tell people about Jesus and things like that. So I kind of see it from a different perspective. I mean, I feel like if I'm called to stay at home, then it's my duty to raise my kids in a way that is teaching them spiritual things.
I agree with that. I guess maybe in culture, like the ladies live there, where they take ownership of the spiritual leadership, and the man is not. Mm-hmm. And I guess that was the reason for the question, because that's sometimes what I see. I've heard a guy tell me one time, he goes, I come home from work, I don't have any time for my family. And I'm like, I don't have anything else to give them, because he's spent all of his energy and time and focus on external things. So, Jake, what are you? Go ahead.
No.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's a generational situation, because I think that dads husbands now were not taught how to be spiritual leaders,
Yeah.
and it's been happening for several generations to the point that we have like young men who do not know how to even get started.
Yeah.
And also, I think one thing that I would say to wives is to be careful not to be critical of them, because if they start to make an effort and you're like, you're not doing it right, then they're going to immediately withdraw.
Yeah.
So you have to, you know, like sit back, be patient, let them try to figure out how to be the spiritual leaders and be supportive of that rather than be like super critical and
Yeah.
constantly correcting them and all of that kind of thing. I had the opportunity to stay home with our kids, and I'm very thankful for that. And so there was, you know, we read tons of board books and Bible stories, and we, you know, listened to songs on the radio in the car. You know, you spend a lot of time doing those things, and dads are not there for maybe as many hours, but I think that it's important for children to look to their dads as a spiritual leader. And you know, ultimately, and I think the way our kids view it, I think that they know that there are certain things that they can come to me and ask me questions about, and then there's certain things that they automatically are going to ask him about. And it's kind of like I'm a little bit more like historical fact, biblical stuff, so they'll come and ask me a question on that. But when it comes to like the more deeply theological, philosophical stuff, they may come to Stephen and ask him, okay, what do you think about this? Because I'm like, ooh, you know, like just ask me yes and no, like factual questions. I'm good with that. But anyway, I think that's how our kids have viewed talking to us about spiritual matters. So,
Well, and I'll say this, and you know, both of us have led men, and I just finished a men's study, and the to me, there's not an out for when guys sit there and say, "Well, I was never taught this." Okay, well, break that generational thing.
Yeah.
Or I don't feel comfortable with this. You know, when you were a little kid and you first started brushing your teeth, you probably didn't feel very comfortable there. But thankfully, you kept on. I mean, I've encountered some folks that may not have, but for the most part, you know, just like anything else in life, and the statistics tell us they're overwhelming.
Yeah.
When the dads make church attendance a priority, when they're available to the kids, it has nothing to do about ability. I mean, Jennifer's a much better Bible teacher than I am. And as she said, I don't know how she remembers this king was before this king and broke the kingdom and did this and did that and is much better.
Is that Sunday afternoon conversation?
Not at all.
Okay.
Sunday afternoon in my house, I get a nice cold Dr. Pepper.
Yep.
And, you know, kind of either fall asleep in the recliner or on the couch, usually with a ball game on TV. That is a good Sunday afternoon. And she's gotten to where... like yesterday, the kids, hey, we'll take you out to eat. Where do you want to go for Mother's Day? And of course, you know, the 17-year-old's like, ooh, let's go to a particular Japanese restaurant. I mean, not because she likes it, he likes it. Yeah. And I'm like, it's not Son's Day. And Jennifer's like, I'll be honest with you, I think I just kind of like to go home. Mm-hmm. Let's just go home.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that is not Sunday afternoon conversation. But again, it has nothing to do with ability. The roles are. God's just given us different roles.
Yeah.
And I tell the guys in our class, our wives will never have to give an account for spiritually how our families were led, but we will.
Yeah.
We will have to do that, and we're blessed. I mean, we've really never had an issue with our kids to where I don't want to go to church. I don't want to be a part of that. And, one of the things that we've always tried to do for our kids and also for staff kids, we want church to be a fun place for them. And, you know, I've even gotten in trouble over the years. I'll always say, hey, you know, my kids and staff kids, hey, you want to do a birthday party for them down at the church? Do a birthday party for them down at the church. And people will come and say, hey, I want to have a birthday party for them. We don't do birthday parties for kids. Well, what do you mean, Ryan's kid? Well, yeah, but that's Ryan's kid.
you're going to have to cut that.
No, we don't have to cut any of that. No, it's just true. It's true. It's true. We've just, I mean, my goodness, our kids, I mean, they're going to be here.
Yeah.
I always say there's three groups of individuals I expect to be here every time the doors are open. Number one, my family.
Yeah.
You know, unless providentially hindered. Number two, the staff.
Yeah.
And number 3, the deacons. I expect at least those 3 groups to be here. And we've always created it's a fun place, man. Let's go. And we're blessed that our kids have never really balked on that. And again, Ryan and I talk about this all the time. We're in a good church.
Yeah.
We're in a loving church. We're in a church that honestly lets our kids be kids. And if anything, I have to talk to people in the church. Hey, quit showing so much favoritism to my kid. Quit giving them all this stuff. And so we're blessed that they enjoy being a part of that. But we're the ones that lead out for that. And I would say any guy out there that sits there and says, "Well, I wasn't shown that." Okay. Well, you sure don't want your son saying that.
Yeah.
You be the
Well,
one
I
that
could
breaks
say,
that.
I mean, I do think that there are probably a lot of families in the church who are not in ministry like we are, and so they think that this is easy for us, and but actually it can be a real struggle in ministry families as well, because what happens, same thing, like men in ministry, they go and they do ministry all day and they just give, and when they come home, they're all out of, and I remember having conversations with Stephen when the kids were much smaller, because I told him, I said, this life requires a lot of our kids.
Yeah.
They have to share him with so many people. I don't want them to resent the church because you have nothing left for us. I don't want the leftovers. And and I think that applies to, families who are in secular jobs. Don't give your wife and your kids the leftovers because you've used it up on everybody else. It's just, whether it's ministry or another job or whatever, just, don't put your kids and your wife in a situation where they resent who gets your time.
Yeah.
That's a good word. There's nothing more important than the relationship we have with the Lord and the relationship we have with our family.
Yeah.
Nothing more important.
Yeah.
And I've seen many pastors and ministers, the mistress has been the ministry.
Yeah.
Or the mistress for a lay person has been the job. I've never hung around anybody on their deathbed. Boy, I wish I worked more hours.
Well, and what I appreciate about, because we started out in corporate world where, there were a lot of times, there were times when she would say, "Hey, I just need you to put your phone down for one night, please," just because there were circumstances where I was having to be on call quite a bit.
You were firing everybody.
I was not. But she was
imagine,
like,
man.
she goes, "Hey, just I need you to." But translating into the ministry setting, she's been able to kind of challenge me and going, "Hey, like, I need you here. I know you're present. I need you to be present here. I need you to listen to what I'm saying." And there's been times where I'm like, "Yeah, but I need to do this. I need to plan." Stephen Kyles has expectations. I need to do.
Slave driver.
That's right. But she challenges me to make sure that hey, where are you with the Lord? But also, hey, let's make sure that family is taken. So I want to talk about maybe along the same lines, like how do we balance time? How do you guys dealing with our calendar, dealing with our time frame? How do you balance the time with family versus the church obligation? And I know you and I have had conversations about this, and
well, we've had a little bit of a shift in our I guess our time management, only because I started a full-time job where I didn't have one before. I worked part-time.
Mama bought me some new shoes.
Dude, you're always getting new shoes.
Anyway, go ahead.
I worked in the school district for a little while, but I was working part-time, and so I had like summers off and whatever. But now I'm working a more demanding job where I work. Our time is a little bit more strenuous because of the job that I do. And although I love my job, I've often told, my boss, like, well, if the Lord calls us elsewhere and, then I'm going to have to go. And he was like, well, I've had conversations. You're not going anywhere. Anyway.
I may go
You
somewhere.
work for the Lord?
I may go somewhere.
Yeah.
You may not go anywhere.
Anyway, that's just kidding, but seriously, balancing time has become a little bit more challenging, only because I get home after you do, and so where the role has shifted a little bit. I enjoy doing household. I still enjoy coming home and making dinner and, and sort of doing the laundry and sort of taking care of the house. I mean, I sort of still enjoy all
So you got
those
supper waiting on you when you come home?
No.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute. There have been at least 4 times where I've had.
At least 4
Yeah.
times. I've worked
I start
my
stuff.
job for at least 5 years.
Okay.
Oh,
We need to edit this out. Journey.
Anyway, but in all seriousness, whenever we were younger, we always tried to make sure that when the kids went to bed at the same time every night, so that we would have time together, just the 2 of us. We still prioritize that time to make sure that we're hanging out together and we're just doing something fun, whether it be like, we're just going shopping.
We like the
or
beach.
we're going to sit on the beach, or we go play golf, or whatever we're doing, and just prioritizing that time together.
Yeah.
And making sure that we're putting each other at least before the children.
Yeah.
I think it's important for your kids to see that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I mean, all families struggle with, and it's seasonal. You go through seasons of life depending on where your kids are and in the growing up stages, but you just get through into seasons where you're like, I think we're just passing each other in the hallways. Right. We haven't had a real conversation. I have no idea what you think about this or that or whatever. You're kind of like handling the business every night like this, like, okay, you have to be there and I have to be there. And this is what, so,
and we did it different. The kids didn't go to bed every night at the same time.
we were not very disciplined about that.
We were very
They turned out
unstructured.
okay, I think.
We were very unstructured.
But I think too, part of the reason was because I was a stay-at-home mom, but also because ministry was very unpredictable. So sometimes you have late nights and you're at the church doing things and stuff. So if my kids had been super regimented, they would have, fallen apart at 7 p.m. And so they kind of like rolled with whatever our schedule was at the time, and it worked for us. It doesn't work for everybody, but I think that one of the questions that you asked was about how do we challenge our husbands, and I think in my particular situation, because Stephen is in a situation where there aren't a lot of people who are going to verbally challenge him, I'm sometimes the only one that'll be like, hey, have you thought about this, or have you thought about this? And so I try not to do that in front of other people, but there are times where I feel like I am in a position to be a little bit of an accountability person for him, because, when your husband especially is the senior pastor, there's a lot of people who are not going to feel at liberty to say, hey, I think maybe you need to rethink that or whatever. So I try not to abuse that, but that is kind of a situation that I've been in our marriage. But anyway, that's...
Man, I tell you, before we started, you said the time's going to go by really, really quick, and we are about out of time. And so this easily could be a multi-parter.
Yeah.
But she's right. When the Holy Spirit's busy and he's off handling something else, then my wife will take over and just really lead me in the right direction. But no, how blessed we are with our wives. Yeah. A lot of guys' wives want nothing to do with the ministry.
Yeah.
And ours are involved and compliment us in a really good way. And I need somebody in my life sometimes just to shoot it straight. Yeah. And I know she will do that. And I think we all need that direction. So.
Well, like you said, there's so much more that we could probably talk about. There's a lot of things that we could discuss with this, but because we are out of time, we gotta stop it. I do want to say thank you for your input. Thank you for being willing to be right here on the famous Unchangeable Truth podcast, international Unchangeable Truth.
We are
podcast.
still looking for a sponsor, though.
We are looking for a sponsor. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening right here on the Unchangeable Truth podcast. We'll see you next time.
This is Pastor Stephen Kyle, and I would like to thank you for listening to this week's episode of Unchangeable Truth. We would always love to talk to you about your relationship with Jesus Christ, so feel free to shoot us an email at podcast@highlandpark.org. That's HILANDPARK.org. The purpose of this broadcast is to help you fall more in love with Jesus Christ and your faith to grow as you consistently find yourself in the Word of God. If you ever find yourself in Panama City, please feel free to stop by and worship with us in person at 2611 Highway 231 North. May God bless you, and we look forward to you joining us again.